The tragic and fatal stabbing of 3 young girls sparked an unprecedented wave of violence in Britain against Muslims and immigrants after the spread of misinformation on social media that the attacker was a Muslim refugee. However, the truth is that there is a political reality that's being exploited in these painful events, which in general is working really to distract people from the economic slowdown and the slow growth, preoccupy people with the issue of identity, preoccupy people with societal issues, and making the people clash amongst themselves. Their aims are to organize the right wing as a counter so that it mimics what's happening in Europe, where there are specific political parties for the right, which there isn't here, and to ensure that they incorporate Muslims and the right into the mainstream politics so that they could regulate demonstrations even if they are peaceful, and push the Muslim community to integrate and assimilate and engage in the societal movements and the political parties here. So what is our position as Muslims residing in Britain regarding these events? What is expected and required of us to understand, and how to deal with them from the perspective of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and whose words are better than someone who calls others to Allah, does good and says, I am truly one of those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has singled out this nation, this ummah of Rasulullah, and chosen it to carry the message of Tawheed and an upright and steadfast ummah. And so we have made you believers and upright ummah so that you may be witnesses over humanity and that the messenger may be a witness over you. My brothers and sisters, Allah made the children of Adam into peoples and tribes, and Islam came to show us the wisdom behind this so that we get to know each other, and not for each other to be fanatical over others and each tribe over another, claiming superiority. And Islam made only criterion is piety and iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We created you from a male and female and made you into peoples and tribes so that you may get to know each other. Surely the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous among you. Muslims, today we are paying a heavy price. A heavy price in our blood and our sustenance and our wealth, because we have turned away from the remembrance of Allah and His laws, in which that is our only salvation and our only glory and our only dignity. Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar radiallahu anhu said, we were humiliated. Then Allah honored us with Islam. Whomever seeks and pursues honor from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will humiliate him. But unfortunately, our fathers pursued nationalism. We loved our flags. We loved our boundaries. And then secularism. And today, this generation is running after liberalism and its nationalist and patriotic concepts, the declining values of liberalism and its false solutions. We have witnessed indeed what they have accomplished with their liberalism in all of the damage that they have done everywhere in the Muslim lands. Instead of us teaching the West the meaning of get to know each other, لِتَعَارَفُوا, and accepting immigration and immigrants fleeing with their religion, seeking new sustenance and new possibilities, as the Islamic State did over the course of 13 centuries, we have accepted from them the principles of division, separation, and fighting for the sake of soil that we call a nation, or a barrel of oil, or a throne that some dictator calls his own. Listen to me quote from the text of a letter that the rabbi of Istanbul, the Jewish rabbi of Istanbul, wrote this letter to his brothers, the Jews in Spain. He said to them in the 15th century, "Here in the land of the Turks, we have nothing to complain of. We possess great fortunes. We are not oppressed with heavy taxes, and our commerce is free and unhindered, and every one of us lives in peace and freedom. Arise, my brethren, collect all your forces and come to us and witness what will happen, that you will be able to live peacefully." The historian and Arab philosopher and culturist Diana Darke wrote in her book, The Ottomans, a cultural legacy. She said, in comparison, there is a remarkable difference between the Ottoman approach, and that is the Muslim approach, because the Ottomans were Muslims, to the different communities and to their acceptance and welcoming of refugees. Compare that to the Europeans, who had a tendency to evict communities based on their perceived ethnic superiority of one group over another. The expulsion of religious minorities was a common feature, she says, of the European landscape, still is till today. And European efforts to build a nation state with a shared ethno-religious background. Were they not shouting in their demonstrations, "We want our country back"? They were after, and they are still after, the minorities who they deemed to be threatening to the dominant group, or the religious communities that did not follow the established majority religion or ways of life. This is their cultural legacy, which we see before us today. And only a weak, fearful group who lacks confidence in their religion and their thoughts and their beliefs and principles and values would actually do this. Muslims, we are on the opposite scale today. We do not any longer follow the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not follow what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had done, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had said that whomever kills a person with whom there is a treaty, a mu'ahid, then he will not only smell, but the smell of Jannah will not reach him. And whoever wrongs a person of a covenant with us, who has a treaty, or diminishes his rights, or burdens him beyond his capacity, or takes something from him against his will, then I, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will be his opponent on the day of resurrection on the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as I mentioned in a khutbah a few weeks ago, he made the treaty of Medina when he entered Medina. And he protected all of the people who were of Jewish faith or of the other faiths in Medina. Did not expel them, did not impose upon them anything. He also astonished his enemies on the day of the conquest of Mecca. Go, you are free. In the conquests of Islam, Rasulullah, the Muslims, Umar ibn Khattab ordered that you shall not take anyone's house or property. You will allow them to stay in their properties. You will allow them to stay on their agricultural land. They only have to pay the kharaj. So this was the way that politically and economically we drove Islam into the hearts of people, so they accepted it and understood. Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, when he was faced with the situation of the great drought, and many thousands of the Bedouins of the Arabian Peninsula came to Medina looking, he did not expel them. He did not say, "Oh, we don't have also, go away." No, he opened kitchens all over Medina. He himself supervising them and fed them and cooked for over 100,000 people, day and night for over a year, until the rains came. But when the rains came, he didn't say, "Okay, rain, go." No, he said, "Here is money for your root. Here's more cattle for you so you can start your flocks again." And made sure that they had sufficiently so they can go back.